You know, to be honest with you, I haven't seen Steph Curry this locked in and this determined in the last 2 to 3 years. He is focused, and there's only one thing on his mind, and that's getting back to the promised land and completing the mission of winning his 5th ring. What he done tonight was Steph Curry at his finest. I mean, carrying this team, well, I wouldn't say carrying this team, but doing it when it mattered the most. 42 points, and then all of a sudden you see the trust in the young Jonathan Kuminga, right, and Steve Kerr, which I think is going to be huge for the Warriors. Jonathan Kuminga, the athleticism that he brings at the wing position, Steve Kerr trusting him in the overtime late in the 4th quarter, that's going to go a long way, because if the Warriors are trying to win a championship, which they are trying to do, Jonathan Kuminga is going to be the most important piece to their success.
It's just a win mentality, whoever's out there. Like, I don't know if that group had any reps in training camp. It's kind of just one of those things you just get organized and the toughness on the defensive end, but a lot of IQ out there on the floor. So coach trusted us and we got it done.
Yeah, he loved the moment. That's just who he's been since I've known him. You know, the bigger the moment, the more he rises. He's this quiet guy. You know, we all know Steph, like, right, how he is. But he loved the show. I think, you know, and so anytime it's a show to be put on, he's going to do it. And, you know, he did that tonight in a major way.
He loves the show. He lit the world on fire at the clutch times, man. Scoring 22 in the final 6:30 of the 4th in overtime. And in that same span, the Nuggets also 22 points, making one less than the Chef.
San Francisco, the Chase Center is still shaking. The game ended barely an hour ago, but the buzz has already consumed NBA Twitter. Golden State Warriors 137, Denver Nuggets 131, OT, Stephen Curry 42 points, including 22 inches the final 6 minutes and 30 seconds. A performance Kendrick Perkins called a reminder to the entire league that Steph never left. Moments later, Curry stepped into the press room, sweat still dripping down his neck. His voice was calm, not cocky, not loud. Just steady. We don't have anything to prove. We just need to remember who we are. One quiet line. And the entire media world froze. Because 48 hours earlier, Kendrick Perkins had said on First Take, Steph Curry is one championship and one finals MVP away from entering the GOAT conversation. Now, after this game, he was the first to change his tone. Forget what I said, this man is playing like he's chasing immortality. This wasn't Curry went off. It was a warning. A message that the Warriors have just flipped their dynasty switch back on. Aaron Gordon scored 50 points. Nikola Jokic posted another triple-double. And Denver still lost. Because one man refused to follow logic. Curry didn't just drop 42. He ripped the rhythm out of the game. Every shot he took was a declaration. The Warriors aren't done. They're reloading. An NBC Sports Bay Area commentator put it best. We've seen Curry explode before. But never this cold, no emotion, no showmanship, just surgical precision. And inside that coldness, people saw something familiar, the glow of 2015. A Warriors team that knows how to suffocate hope in the final 5 minutes. A Curry that makes arenas hold their breath with every follow-through. But this time, it's not fun anymore. It's a declaration. Curry entered his 17th season not to extend a career, but to reclaim the right to define greatness. And if anyone asks, is this just an early season game? Perkins has already answered, no. This is the sound of a dynasty waking up. The numbers said Denver should have won. Everything pointed that way. Aaron Gordon's 50 points. Jokic's triple-double, a 14-point lead midway through the 3rd. Momentum, control, confidence all in Denver's hands. But basketball doesn't always belong to the logical. Sometimes, it belongs to the stubborn, to those who refuse to read the numbers because they're too busy rewriting them. That's what Stephen Curry did tonight. When the scoreboard showed 94-94 entering the 4th, something shifted, not in the stats, but in the air. Curry started playing like gravity itself had switched sides. Shots that should have been impossible started looking routine. Logo threes. Step backs. Layups over Jokic. Every possession felt like a rebellion against probability. Golden State didn't win with pace or tactics. They won with conviction. They won because Curry refused to blink first. Kendrick Perkins said earlier this week, give that man credit for his conditioning. He's doing it on both ends. He wasn't exaggerating. At 37, Curry looks like he's training for a second prime. not fighting off decline. The way he moved off-ball relentless. The way he exploded into every screen fearless. He didn't just score, he dictated. He turned the Nuggets' defense into reaction, then turned their offense into doubt. Denver still had the better numbers. Curry had the better moments. And basketball, at its core, has always belonged to the one who owns the moment. In the final 6:30 of regulation and overtime, Curry scored 22 points, matching the entire Denver roster. That's not a stat. That's possession control, mental warfare, and rhythm domination rolled into one. When Steve Kerr subbed in Jonathan Kuminga for the closing stretch, it wasn't just a rotation choice. It was a philosophy shift. Youth and fire alongside experience and control. Curry as the axis, Kuminga as the extension. That pairing didn't just save the game, it previewed what this version of the Warriors could become. Older, smarter, sharper, and suddenly, fearless again. This was never supposed to be their kind of game. High scoring, fast, physical, the kind of game a young Denver team usually buries opponents in. But Curry changed the terms. It turned caos into tempo, fatigue into fuel, and time into his personal stage. And by the end, the Nuggets weren't playing the Warriors. They were chasing Curry. That's what separates him from every other superstar still active. LeBron can orchestrate. Luka can create. Giannis can dominate. But only Curry can bend emotion into strategy. He weaponizes belief. He makes his team believe they're never out. And worse, he makes opponents believe they're never safe. When you can control both sides of belief, you control the game. That's what happened tonight. The Warriors didn't just win in overtime. They made Denver surrender to faith. This wasn't a comeback. It was a reminder that when Curry decides a game isn't over, it isn't. When Kendrick Perkins spoke earlier this week, it wasn't disrespect. It was doubt wrapped in data. Steph Curry is one championship and one Finals MVP away from entering the GOAT conversation. That sentence sounded harmless, even complimentary. But underneath it was the same hesitation the league has carried for years. Has Steph done enough? Tonight, he didn't respond with words. He responded with 42 points and absolute control. He didn't argue with Perkins. He silenced him. Perkins, watching live on ESPN's post-game feed, broke into a grin and admitted, "I might have to take that back. This man's playing like he wants to skip the line." That's what this game did. It turned one championship away into now. Curry has never chased validation, but he understands narrative. He knows every era builds its own mythology. And tonight, he reminded everyone that he's still writing his. Because when Perkins said Curry needed another Finals MVP, he missed the truth that numbers can't catch. Curry's influence isn't cumulative. It's contagious. He doesn't stack achievements. He redefines moments. This performance wasn't about adding to a resume. It was about erasing the distance between eras. LeBron had longevity. Giannis has dominance. Jokic has efficiency. Curry has something purer: command. Command over pace. Command over fear. Command over how the game feels. Perkins called out conditioning. Curry turned it into spectacle. Perkins questioned legacy. Curry answered with rhythm, timing, and ruthlessness. Every three-pointer he hit in crunch time was a rebuttal without words. Every cut, every stare down, every follow-through said, "You keep counting trophies. I'm counting moments that changed the sport." This is what Perkins and most of the league keep underestimating. Curry isn't measured by seasons. He's measured by seasons he defines. From 2015's revolution in spacing to 2022's return to the throne, to this night, the 24th of October 2025. Curry keeps proving his greatness doesn't fade. It resets the standard every time people doubt it. Perkins gave him a checklist. Curry tore it in half. He doesn't need another Finals MVP to validate his place. He needs only nights like this, nights when the world collectively gasps and remembers that the smallest man on the floor still controls the sport built for giants. Perkins said Curry was chasing the conversation. Now the conversation is chasing Curry. That's not a reaction. That's a shift in hierarchy. And it started with 42 points, 22 inches the last 6 minutes and 30 seconds, and one message sent loud enough for the whole league to hear. "I never left the GOAT conversation. You did." This wasn't just Curry's night. It was Steve Kerr's experiment and proof that Golden State can still evolve. For 2 years, critics said the Warriors were stuck in nostalgia. Too old, too small, too dependent on one man. Tonight shattered that argument. Kerr didn't just roll out the veterans and hope for magic. He mixed youth with legacy. Jonathan Kuminga, Moses Moody, and Trace Jackson Davis, sharing crucial possessions with Curry, Draymond, and Clay. It wasn't beautiful basketball. It was functional fire, the kind of energy the Dynasty once thrived on. And it worked. When Kerr kept Kuminga on the floor late in regulation and overtime, it wasn't a gamble, it was a statement. He trusted length, legs, and hunger. He trusted that the next era of Warriors could protect the old one, and they did. Kuminga's pressure defense on Gordon slowed the bleeding. Moody's spacing opened the lane. Draymond barked orders like an orchestra conductor, but everything still orbited around the same sun, Curry. The difference? This time, the solar system moved with him. For years, the Warriors lived and died by spacing and flow. Now, they survive on grit and control. It's less ballet, more bare-knuckle boxing. And Curry, somehow, looks more comfortable than ever. You could see it in the way he slowed the offense in overtime. Deliberate, surgical, dictating tempo with patience instead of panic. That's not the 2016 Warriors. That's Warriors 2, a team that's older, but harder to kill. The new version has an edge that analytics can't chart. Experience fused with defiance. They've lost the element of surprise, but gained the power of knowing exactly who they are. Every dynasty eventually faces its mirror, the moment when imitation replaces innovation. But Golden State just broke that mirror. They're reinventing themselves in real time, blending speed and IQ, legacy and audacity. Kerr called it after the game. We're not chasing the past. We're building something that can last. It sounded like coach speak, but after watching them beat the defending champs in overtime, it felt prophetic. Because this version of the Warriors isn't about chasing highlight reels. It's about outlasting chaos. It's about using time as a weapon, not an enemy. For the first time in years, the bench looks alive. The ball moves with purpose again. The defense bends but doesn't break. And the leader, 7-year-old Stephen Curry, has found a way to merge efficiency with fury. If the 2015 Warriors introduced beauty to basketball, the 2025 Warriors are bringing back its brutality. They don't need to outshoot everyone anymore. They just need to outbelieve them. And nights like this prove they still can. Every season has one game that changes the temperature of the league. This was that game, not because it decided standings, it decided tone. When the defending champions blow a double-digit lead, when Aaron Gordon scores 50 and still loses, when Nikola Jokic plays like an MVP and still looks powerless, it sends a message deeper than the box score. It says, the Warriors are back in the conversation. For the past 2 years, teams treated Golden State like history. A proud legacy. A fading dynasty. Something to respect, not to fear. That ends tonight. Steph Curry just reminded everyone that Golden State isn't a museum. It's still a minefield. The Nuggets didn't lose because they were bad. They lost because Curry decided they would. And that's the kind of control reserved only for legends. In one overtime, he erased every preseason narrative. They're too old. They've lost their identity. Curry can't carry them again. Check, check, and checkmate. When Kendrick Perkins went on ESPN after the final buzzer, he didn't analyze, he admitted, if this is how he's starting the season, the league's in trouble. That's not hyperbole. That's fear disguised as respect, because the league knows how this story goes. Every time Curry opens a season with chaos, it doesn't end in highlights, it ends in banners. This wasn't vintage Steph. This was evolved Steph. Slower, smarter, sharper. A man who has seen every defense, every adjustment, every doubt, and still finds a way to bend reality to his rhythm. And now, for the first time since 2022, the Warriors' locker room feels like belief again. No one is saying, run it back. They're saying, run it forward. Draymond's voice is steady. Clay's smile is real. Kuminga's confidence is contagious. The veterans are locked in, and the young core finally looks ready to fight beside them instead of behind them. That's not nostalgia. That's renewal. Golden State doesn't need to be who they were. They just need to be who they are. A team built on memory and menace, with a point guard who still terrifies physics. Perkins said Curry was one title away from the GOAT debate. He may have missed the point. Curry's not chasing Jordan or LeBron. He's chasing transcendence, a legacy that exists beyond eras. The kind where greatness isn't compared, it's felt. And tonight, everyone felt it. You could see it in the Nuggets' faces during overtime. That quiet disbelief that this was happening again. You could feel it through the broadcast. That buzz in the air when Curry gets that look, the look that says, it's mine now. Every era has its warning shot. In 2015, it was Steph for 3. In 2025, it's Steph again. The league just got its reminder. Golden State isn't finished. They're reloaded, redefined, and dangerously aware of who they are. This wasn't a comeback. It was a declaration of intent. The rest of the NBA better listen, because when Stephen Curry starts a season like this, history doesn't just repeat, it reloads. Every dynasty ends the same way. Not with defeat, but with disbelief. People stop believing, they stop fearing, they stop waiting for magic. That's what the Warriors have fought the last 2 seasons. Not other teams, but doubt itself. Tonight changed that. For the first time in years, belief flooded back into the building. Not nostalgia, not memory, belief. The kind that makes veterans dive for loose balls again. The kind that makes rookies stare at Curry like he's light in motion. The kind that makes you feel for a split second that basketball can still be spiritual. Because when Steph Curry plays like this, you don't just watch the game. You trust it again. All the talk about decline, fatigue, and windows closing. It dissolves the moment he hits that step back from 28 feet and walks away before it drops. Not arrogance, recognition. He knows what's coming. So do you. Faith isn't built on logic. It's built on memory. And tonight, Curry reminded everyone why we once believed the impossible was routine. Kendrick Perkins said before the game, he's 1 championship and 1 finals MVP away. After this, he said nothing. Because faith doesn't need words. It needs witnesses. And 1,800 people at Chase Center, plus a few million watching, just witnessed belief reborn. This win wasn't about standings. It was about restoration. Restoring the fire in the locker room. Restoring trust in Kerr's system. Restoring fear in every defense that thought they'd figured them out. Curry didn't chase nostalgia. He reignited conviction. He made the sport feel alive again. And that's bigger than any stat, any ring, any debate. LeBron represents longevity. Giannis represents power. Jokic represents control. But Curry? He represents faith, the unshakable belief that the game can still make you feel something new. That's why, when the buzzer sounded, no one screamed. They just exhaled. Because somewhere deep down, everyone knew what it meant. The Warriors aren't chasing the past. They're chasing something purer, belief itself. The dynasty didn't return tonight. Faith did. And if this is how Stephen Curry begins the season, then the league isn't just in trouble. It's about to remember why it fell in love with basketball in the first place.